Today on Health Spark, we're going to talk about intermittent fasting and its connection to autoimmune diseases. So stay tuned. Hi, welcome back. I am so glad you're here. Today, we are going to talk about time-restricted eating, or as it's most commonly known, intermittent fasting. Now, intermittent fasting has been around for several years, and it's quite a buzz topic, and for good reason. I have heard about it, and in the beginning, I gotta be honest, it did not sound like anything I wanted to be a part of. But as time has passed and more research has been done, and the benefits have been overwhelming, I finally decided to take a closer look at exactly what was involved and the benefits of intermittent fasting. So the basic concept of intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating is that we allow our body prolonged periods of time between meals so that our body has time to burn through all the calories from our previous meal, and it then needs to rely on other sources of energy because there's no more food coming. And ultimately, what this means is that our body has to use our fat stores as fuel. And we call this metabolic switching. So it is getting our body to get good at using our fat stores as a source of energy. When we eat, our body turns much of our food into glucose, which is quick and easy to use, meaning our cells need to use very little energy in order to convert that glucose into ATP, which is energy in our cells, to do the processes that our cells need to do. It takes more energy for us to convert fat into ATP to fuel our cells. And so when we restrict our food for prolonged periods of time, it makes our body better at switching over and using fat as a fuel. And this is good because for multiple reasons, but obviously fat loss was one of the top early incentives for people to try this out, because not only were we burning fat using it as a fuel source, but we burned more fat to burn the fat. So because our body needed more energy to burn the fat as a fuel source, it was actually using even more of those fat stores to create the energy needed for our cells to function. And while this sounded cool, it wasn't enough for me to be motivated to try this out. However, there have been numerous studies done that have shown a multitude of benefits to using intermittent fasting in your weekly routine. Some of the benefits of intermittent fasting include a longer life, who doesn't want that, a leaner body, and a sharper mind. So it is beneficial to all areas of our health. But the one that really got me interested was that using intermittent fasting can help to repair and reset the immune system. And of course, we know if we have an autoimmune condition that our immune system is not functioning optimally. There is some damage and it is misfiring or miscommunicating with our body and attacking some of our body's cells as foreign objects. And so in order to switch our bodies back into a healthy mode of being, intermittent fasting is actually a great tool to help us do that. So how is intermittent fasting beneficial for our immune system? Well, in 2019, a study at Mount Sinai found that fasting for less than 24 hours reduced the number of monocytes in our blood. High levels of monocytes in our blood have been associated with chronic inflammation and inflammatory disease, including autoimmune diseases. And just one fast showed a reduction in the number of monocytes. And that effect lasted several days. So you can imagine that regular fasting could help to chronically reduce the number of pro-inflammatory markers in our blood. And this study included many autoimmune diseases, including rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, type 1 diabetes, and the reason is multifold. So while it reduces the amount of monocytes in our blood, it also aided in repairing the lining of our gut, because by giving our digestive tract a break, it allows that system to repair itself as well as alter itself. So the types and ratios of bacteria in our gut change when the food is not constantly coming in and feeding certain species of bacteria, which can cause overpopulation of certain species, resulting in inflammation. Giving our system a break from food also allows our immune system to cleanse and repair. When our body feels like it is going into a starvation mode for a short period of time, it cleans out old cells and gets everything working optimally so that it is ready for this upcoming challenge. Of course, leaving our bodies without food for too long then starts to have the opposite effect. We start to go into almost a hibernation mode where we are storing fat and shutting down non-essential systems. So that is not what you want to do. But having these short windows of less than 24 hours where we restrict calories or avoid eating allows our body to cleanse, to repair, and to prepare in case there is an upcoming emergency. And once we give it food again, we shut down that alarm system and we are allowing our body to work optimally. So we're kind of getting the best of both worlds. We get regular nutrition and our body has time to rest and reset. There has been research done that doing a 3-day fast can actually reset your entire immune system. However, this is an extended period of time and can be tricky or hard to access for many people. Many of us are not willing, ready, or prepared to go without food for 3 full days. Now, if you do choose to try this out, I recommend doing it with the guidance of someone in the medical field, perhaps a functional medicine doctor, a naturopath. You will need to have electrolytes and things in those 3 days while restricting your caloric intake. The good news, however, is that they have realized that even smaller windows of time can give us similar benefits. So perhaps not as extreme a benefit as a 3-day fast, but still very beneficial for our immune system. So even as little as 16 to 20 hours of fasting can give us similar benefits to a 3-day fast without the challenges of going without food for 3 days. Another important benefit to intermittent fasting is preserving muscle mass. And I've talked about this in previous episodes. What naturally happens as we age is something called sarcopenia, where we lose muscle mass over time. And so even if we are not overweight, we may be under lean, meaning we are losing the important mass, skeletal muscle that we need for everyday functions. And we will often see this in people as they age, where they are unable to get up easily off the floor, off a chair, to be mobile, to travel up and down stairs. All these things, we need our skeletal muscle mass in order to continue to do them. And so we want to exercise, especially weight-bearing exercise, to build and maintain our muscle. But intermittent fasting is another tool that can help us do that. So when we are restricting calories for a shortened period, under 24 hours, then it has been shown that it actually preserves our muscle mass and strictly burns fat. Now, if you extend that out for too long, and certainly without proper supplementation, then you will start to burn muscle tissue as well as fat, which is why you want to restrict those intermittent fasting periods. Now, of course, there are certain people for which intermittent fasting is not ideal, and this includes children, people with type 1 diabetes, and women who are pregnant or breastfeeding. But if you don't fall into those categories, it's always great to speak to a medical professional to see if intermittent fasting might be something that you want to try. Now, I love to eat and I am a snacker, so I typically would graze throughout the day and would prefer to have 12 small snacks over 3 large meals. However, I decided to give intermittent fasting a try. So the first thing I did was I started small and I just cut myself to a 12-hour window. I'm the kind of person who wakes up hungry and ready to eat in the morning. So I didn't want to cut my breakfast out, as I knew that that would have a big impact on me and most likely on my mood in the morning. So I would have my breakfast at 6 a.m. and then all I did was ensure that I had my dinner by 6 p.m. and I didn't have any evening snacks. And it took a little while because, again, I'm a snacker and I used to have a bedtime snack. And so I cut that out for about a month and started to adjust and got better. And then I just slowly started to cut those windows back. So I shaved a half an hour off the morning. So I would get up and wait a half an hour, and then I started to cut more off the morning. I found for me that trying to eat earlier than 6 p.m. wasn't always realistic with my kids coming home from school, preparing dinner for everyone. So I have just shaved time off the morning. And now I have an 8-hour window during which I eat and a 16-hour window during which I do not eat. And the reality of life is that I have found for me, it works better to be a little bit more flexible on the timing of that. So what I do is whenever I eat at night, when I finish my meal, I then count ahead 16 hours and I know that is when I can have my breakfast. If I'm hungry in the morning, I often will have a black tea, which I find gives me something nice and warm to sip on, so I'm not missing that morning cup of tea, and also helps to reduce my hunger while I'm waiting for my next meal. And over time, it has gotten better. I find personally that I'm not really hungry until that last hour. My body knows food is coming soon, and so my hunger signals really start to ramp up about an hour before it's time for my window of eating to begin. But the benefits have been great. It has improved my sleep, and of course, knowing what I know now, eating a snack before bed is not great and will impact your sleep. So having removed that alone, I'm sure is part of why I sleep better at night. I, without trying, lost 8 pounds in about 6 weeks without having anything else changed in my diet and lifestyle. And for me, that was great because the last time I went to the doctor, they told me I did have a mild case of sarcopenia, meaning even though my BMI, my body mass index, was in the normal range for my age and my height, I was under lean and over fat, meaning my ratio was just a little off. There was a little bit more fat and a little bit less muscle than they would like for my optimal health. And so I have been using intermittent fasting now to switch those ratios around. And like I said, I've already noticed 8 pounds gone, an inch off my waist. And I go back next month for my next check-in, and I'm really excited to see where those ratios are. I feel stronger and leaner, and I'm excited to get those numbers. Now, having said all that, there are a plethora of different forms of intermittent fasting that you can try. And I recommend finding one that will fit with your schedule and that feels like it aligns the closest with your natural rhythms. Some people are not hungry when they wake up in the morning. And so for you, it might make sense to make your eating window later in the day. Maybe you don't start eating until 11 or 12 and you eat until 7 or 8 at night. Of course, depending on when you go to bed, you want at least a 2-hour window between food and bed so that it doesn't impact your sleep. There are other intermittent fasting schedules where you eat regularly 5 days a week and 2 non-consecutive days, you have one meal of 500 to 600 calories. So perhaps that might work better for you. If you like to have some takeout and sort of indulge on the weekend, then Monday might be a great day for you to use as one of your fasting days to reset after all of those calories, so you're not storing them on your body in ways that can cause inflammation. If it's something that you think might interest you, and certainly if you have an autoimmune condition, I recommend at least dipping your toe in, trying it out, reducing your window even an hour, and go from there. See how you adjust, see how you feel, and then work your way in from there. It is extremely beneficial, and it's just another tool we can add to our tool belt to increase our optimal health and reduce the effects of our autoimmune conditions. I hope you've got something of value from today's episode, and until next time, stay healthy.